Okay, so that's working now. All right. I'm hoping if we don't switch users, if we switch users, that it doesn't kill the recording. That's part of it. So,
we should be
all right. So welcome everybody. Sorry for that quite mix up. Normally this runs pretty flawless for you since we've been doing this for many years. So I want to welcome everybody. This is our 9th user group meeting. And the group has been steadily growing. I believe we're up to 117 members now. We want to thank everyone for that. We have, a fairly diverse agenda today. So let's jump right in since we're now starting a little bit late. So to kick it off, we're going to have Mark and Raj talk about, they attended the actual Suite World in person, and they're going to give a demonstration of that.
All right, good morning again, everyone. And yeah, I had the luxury of attending Suite World 2022. A few of us on the call. Raj couldn't join us this morning. He had another commitment. But Gavin on the call, he was there. We spent a few meetings together and a few beers together as well with across the few days. So let me just go through a little bit of the highlights, and I've kind of got it separated on the slides. This one is, it's kind of like just the overview as to how it went. There was 8,000 people. I put a question mark around that because there was lots of rumors as to how many people, but some said it was as high as 10,000. But the number that I had heard from most was around 8,000, and that it was sold out in person as well. When you get 8,000 people together, logistics are pretty crazy. And I said, it was mostly fantastic. I think the only real hiccup that I saw, and Gavin, I don't know where you were for the keynote, but the keynote line to get in was so long that they delayed the start of the keynote by about 15 minutes or so. It was pretty incredible, just the amount of people and traffic going in. It was a safe event. There was security there as well, checking all our bags every day. I had to take out my laptop every single day. I moved to the conference center. But it was great facility there. I would recommend, if you are going, and assuming that they stay at the Caesars conference center, it is not at Caesars and at Caesars Palace. It's actually across the road and down the street. So one hint there, don't stay at Caesars, maybe stay at the Flamingo side. I think Gavin stayed at Link, which cuts down maybe a 10 or 15 minute walk on the 20 to 30 minute walk from Caesars.
Yeah, I was like a 5-minute walk from the Link, so.
Just fantastic. And especially there was a huge thunderstorm. I think it was Wednesday morning. And Gavin, you probably didn't even have to go outside. You could just do everything inside. Whereas I had to run in the rain, which, who expects it to rain in Vegas? But it did, and it thunderstormed, and you should have saw the rivers of water flowing down the streets. It's pretty incredible. I thought the sessions were great location-wise. The keynotes, a massive room for the keynotes. And then all the session rooms were very all close together, which was great, easy to get to sessions and in between sessions. And the exhibit hall was very centrally located as well. And that was kind of like our home base, was everybody went back to the exhibit hall, which was great for networking and stuff there too. It was difficult to see all the sessions. So I think when I first had the session builder opened, I favorited 53 sessions. So knowing the schedule, you can only fit in maybe a max of about 15 or so. And that's really maximizing your time and maybe even jumping from session to session on some of them as well. But, great agenda there. I wish there was another day of sessions that we could, see a few other things. That would be my only feedback back to NetSuite. All the slides are posted on Suite Answers. If you just do in the search, Suite World, you'll find 2022, 21, and 20 slides as well. I know just getting slide decks doesn't give you a good flavor of what was actually presented, but it helps going through. Some of the presenters are really great with their slides, and you can almost walk through what the session was all about and what they were presenting. And more importantly, if there's some really good details or links to other information, they are in the slides as well. As I said, the exhibitor hall, it was always open. It's the home base. It's great for the one-on-one conversation. I met so many people that I've worked with over the years and had Zoom calls, had team calls with them, but it was great to shake their hand in that setting as well. I felt bad for some of the exhibitors because they had to actually work almost, full days in the exhibitor hall on their feet for the majority, because again, it was the home base for almost everybody. I threw in a little thing there. There was lots of swag available, which was quite fun. They had some booths set up where you could go and pick some dolls and stuff. This was Stanley and Sally, and a little bit more on them in a future slide. But I found that great because I have a team of 10 people on my team here at Danby, and I was able to gather up enough swag for that. Everybody on my team got something from the event. So a little bit of fun from that. Wednesday night parties. So there was a lot going on. There was a lot of invites. Basically, you could go to any party that you wanted to attend. And there's quite a bit of options. If you wanted to go on the big high roller, if you wanted to go bowling, if you wanted to go and have an amazing view of the Bellagio fountains, there's a balcony reception there. And my favorite was the Paris rooftop, where Sligo had put on an amazing party there, and we could watch the fountains going off. And there was great food and networking opportunities there as well. So lots of parties going on, which is great because you get to interact with people in maybe a different way than in that business setting that you have at the event. So the Thursday night, which is touted as the party to go to, was great as well. Great networking opportunity, chat with people there. I hung out with one of the vendors that we work closely with, which was great. And Nellie was very entertaining at the event too. And I think Gavin and I are both petitioning for the group that used to run the party from years ago. We want them back. But it was good to have Nellie there. If you are a Nellie fan, then it was great. I did know a couple of songs. Travel. So just to share there, I started off looking at Air Canada and the flights, and the prices were, just going up and up. And actually, Gavin and I both booked on Swoop. We were on the same flight as well. And Gavin, I think we paid around $500 return on that, which was a great investment and good to keep the dollars acceptable as well on our spend at these times too. I paid about, after all your resort charges and everything, about $300 a night at Caesars. And as I said earlier, I was a further walk than Gavin's few minutes. And Gavin, was it $100 or not even $100 a night?
Yeah, so $100 plus the resort fee. So like 130 or something like that.
Which is great. So just keep these things in mind.
And the resort fee includes a Wi-Fi. So I have two devices on the.
I had the same at Caesars as well. So, and that's why Vegas is a great location for Sweet World, because they have so many options for staying there. But my advice is look and plan out, and there are options to do it much less expensive. And I'm kind of putting these out here for you guys as to some of the budgets. Okay, so I hope that helps. All right, some of the themes that we heard, and I hope that everybody had a chance to log into On Air. It was released free as well, I think even during the event. So there is still a pass if you want to go and join and see some of the keynotes. I would highly recommend it. But some of the themes that we saw throughout the event was AP automation is a huge thing. If you're looking at OCRing some of your invoices and looking at that workflow, I personally at Danby, we had a third party do our OCR. Now it's integrated, so we could look at getting off that third party. The CPQ, I can't remember CPQ, what it stands for, but it's basically picking options.
Configure price quote.
Figure price quote. Thank you, Gavin. We saw that in sessions, in the expo, in the keynotes, actually both keynotes.
So that,
huge
yes,
focus.
so that was Verenia, which was a partner before. So
excellent. It looks like a great product, great add-on as well. More of a push on data analytics warehouse as well, with a lot of the sessions and getting mentions in the keynotes there as well. Ship Central, very popular, and what improvements that they're making around the shipping opportunities there, and also WMS fits into that as well. I would consider that. Sweet People with workforce management. Time tracking is one thing that I'm interested in and looking at it. You can add this without purchasing Sweet People as well. I haven't validated that, but
that was also
a good option.
Yeah, that was also a partner product of Australia. So
did we lose sound? We can't hear you, or I can't hear you.
I can hear you guys.
I can hear.
Yeah.
Yep.
Might have to put in the chat. Let me put in the chat for Margie.
Okay. Thank you.
We do use time tracking, but we didn't have to use the other one. So Mark, if you want to touch base with me anytime.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. Great. Margie, are you back?
Yes.
Yes, I can hear now.
Awesome.
It probably was an internet problem, between the countries.
It happens. One patch line that Evan used as much as possible, and I also heard it in a lot of the other messaging too. So I don't know if this was Evan, really trying to push this, but everything ties back to the financials. And I think that I get the feeling that it's an important catchphrase for especially new customers coming on board who may have diverse applications. You're using other third parties, but the more that you do within NetSuite, it's all tying back on the financials. Just, I think we can all agree on the importance of that. But that was a strong theme that Evan had, and had all his employees communicating during the event. There was more user group involvement. So I was invited to a leadership session where I got some great tips and tricks for other user groups are doing and performing, and what's working, what's not working. Almost all the other user groups are now back in person. That is something that I think we should put on our agenda. I don't know if January in Toronto and Canada is the best, idea, but let's discuss as a group, a whole user group, and find out what's best for us. And even if we're hosting in different regions, so maybe one in Toronto, maybe one is out where Danby is and where Gavin is now, right, in the KW area. We can still do hybrid, right? We're still doing remote, but we're also doing in person. But I like the in person because we get that stronger networking involved, and that's why the other user groups have chosen that. You heard Margie, if you were on the call earlier, they're having an open house or a meet and greet that's in person in the Denver area. So it's definitely opening back up for sure. And I think we're a little bit behind on that as a user group. But regardless, it was great to connect with our peers and how we can strengthen our user group as well, which is fantastic.
I believe the customer space that I used to get in Mississauga is open again as well. So that's an option too.
Great, awesome, great, thank you, Gavin. And in the picture there, you can see Raj and I, we manned an Ontario user group table. Darrell, we took your lead and bought some Canadian flags. And yes, a few people dropped by and knew exactly where we were from, which was fantastic. And we met a few new customers there at the event. Gavin stopped and had some dessert with us as well, and some good conversations. So it was good that NetSuite now had that. I think the visibility and the location could be maybe worked on, and pushing more people out to the group. But looking
That's why I only joined for dessert, because I had no idea where it was.
and I know it doesn't show anybody in the background there at other tables, but if we took another side angle, we saw the Rocky Mountain group, the Boston group. There was, I think it was Iowa group, LA group. There were, all represented, which was fantastic to see as well. Okay. Data centers. So I heard data centers are being added, Toronto and Montreal. So, and what's called this OCI, it's technically a different platform. It's the Oracle platform. Without getting technical, some of the things that may be good for us is when you're on that platform, you get to choose exactly when your upgrade is. So timing, date, everything around that. So it gives you more flexibility. But there's going to be, more gains on that. I have been told there's no performance gains, but I'm not sure about that either. And we'll see that coming as they, launch those 2 data centers, and I'm sure our account managers will talk to us about that. There's a new interface coming as well. It was kind of sneaked in kind of at the end of the second keynote. Gavin, you can't comment on any of this with, past knowledge and stuff, but one thing that I did see in that keynote and towards the end was the next generation of customizations and how we'll be able to do customizations if you are an admin in NetSuite. And I just had one comment around that, and it was wow. So you have to kind of see it to really get that wow effect. And I think it's a great thing that NetSuite's doing. I hope that the development continues and we see this in the near future. But there are a few other things like in context customizations. There's a big emphasis on insights, like looking at your data and different types of insights. Those were the top 3 that I could kind of glean from that. But again, look at the keynote, and also maybe keep an eye on. And I think that code name was Redwood. If I had that right, Gavin.
Yeah, if you watched the product keynote, it's the one that Gary Wiesinger starts, and watch carefully the last, but he goes back on stage at the end, and I can't really tell you much exactly what it is, but if you look at it, then you'll probably see that it looks entirely different than the product that you're currently using. So
there were a couple of breakout sessions that I attended that gave us a little sneak peek on that as well. But it was great. So sessions. So I know a lot of you have probably done the on-air sessions, but I've seen both, right? And I've done both, and I've done some of the on-air after the event as well, on demand. But I can tell you the live sessions, just with having live questions there, seeing some live demo, seeing more quite the stories and the side stories kind of come up, and the networking and knowing, like Gavin and I were in a session where it was almost like the whole session was surveying. So how many people would like this feature? Put up your hand. You don't get that in an on-demand session. You get that in a live session. And they were taking down names and sharing business cards after it. This was a much better communication as to what we want to see in future projects. And I bet you some of the people that talked to that presenter afterwards are in some of the beta tests and looking at and helping NetSuite develop some of these new features, which I thought was fantastic. You absolutely do not get that in demand on air sessions. Totally, agree. It's a financial decision for everybody involved, but it is a very good investment moving forward for NetSuite. And if you're going to be on NetSuite for years to come, Nets and Suite Worlds being there in person is the best way of doing that. Okay, and getting the ROI on that. So I thought I'd highlight a few of the sessions that I attended that I thought were great. I've put the number of the session as well, so you can find that in Suite Answers. And these are some of the highlights. And again, guys, you don't have to write all of this down. These slides will be available after our event today. So 50 NetSuite security tips and tricks in 50 minutes. I thought maybe it would be just okay, and I'll glean a few things from it. But I tell you, if 50% of them actually applied to our organization, I got huge benefit out of it, and a few things that I did not know or I knew, and it was during implementation. And it's like, I'm 3 years later now, and I still haven't really done the cleanup. We should be getting to some of these things. It was fantastic. The slides are very good, walks you right through it all. It was done by FastPath, and Go FastPath is their URL, and I've put it there to a security matrix as well, which I did download. It's in Excel. It's kind of a point and click thing that kind of guides you to certain security permissions. So if you are an admin in NetSuite, highly recommend doing that, or downloading that tool as well as the slides. And a CRM panel. We've struggled at Danby implementing CRM in NetSuite. The thing I always get people saying is, go to Salesforce. Why aren't we implementing Salesforce? And somebody stood up and asked the panel a question: why did you guys choose NetSuite and not go to Salesforce? Because that seems to be the default that's out there. And they answered the questions quite well. And they talked a little bit about, the main one was all of the financial data is in NetSuite. So that, if that's your source and that's the source of the truth, why not leverage other things within NetSuite? And just know, out of the box with CRM, with NetSuite, if you can't do what you need it to do, customize it. Build your saved searches around it. Build your workflows around it. Customize your profiles. Do your tracking. And I've taken a bit of this to heart, and I've got a new project to take a look at opportunities and build opportunities in NetSuite to what Salesforce does with their opportunities, and more importantly, the tracking after the fact. So if you don't want to do a second integration, you start to leverage what NetSuite is doing and offering. So I thought that was really good advice, rather than have multiple systems, multiple clicks, getting to the information, have it in one central place. But it is something that continually comes up. I did a mobile app workshop, and this was kind of tied to CRM. I was surprised. I re-downloaded the app, and I did a bit more, fooling around with it on my iPhone. And I thought it was actually quite good, that I could build some custom dashboards for certain roles in the organization that would give, say, a sales rep information on their phone about accounts that they're going to visit. So you can customize it and push that out to mobile phones. I would recommend looking at it. I'm looking at expenses now, and then again with CRM, events, tasks, and do some KPI dashboards for that as well. They do have it for Android as well, but there are some limitations on the Android app right now than there is for iOS. And I did ask the question, is it available on iPad? Because a lot of people travel with iPads now, and that's their primary device in the field. And yes, it is an app on iPad as well. This was a fun one. It's 3 a.m. What is your admin doing? Kind of tied to the security thing, but it was all about setting up good processes for success in the future. Great slides on this. Proactively looking at certain sections, your staffing and planning, reduce your complexity. I'm very complex at Danby, too complex. I need to, look and take some of that out and limit it. Testing in Sandbox, put the joke thing on there. Don't always test my code, but when I do it in production. I'm guilty of it. Doing quick change, just do it in production, right? But we should be leveraging Sandbox, leveraging our release previews as well. APM, a lot of coverage on APM. If you don't have that Suite app loaded, load it today after the meeting. Gives you a really good view of what's happening in NetSuite from a performance perspective. And I can tell you it's helped us tweak some of our performance that we've had headaches on, say, sales orders or vendor bill entry. Why are things slow? And it points back to certain areas or other scripts that have been added to our environment, and use known solutions as well. So look for other third parties that you can bolt on, or don't reinvent the wheel. Look for others that, hey, what are other customers doing? That's a great use case for our user group here, is collaborating on how do you do certain things. So Stephanie spoke up there. I want to do time tracking. She's doing time tracking. Okay. Stephanie and I will chat about that and see how they're doing their time tracking within NetSuite. That's a great opportunity and great. Okay, we're back on. Rebate and trade promotions. Gavin and I were in this. Gavin was the secretary for all the surveys that they had throughout this one. It was great. It's a great information and a great showing of where they're heading with vendor and customer rebate tracking. This is a definite area that I'm interested in. There was a lot of interest in that session as well, which is fantastic. The slides were good to go through that particular solution as well and get some more information. But the feedback they took from that one was excellent. Financial safe searches. So I came into this session thinking, great, I'm going to be able to tweak some of my financial safe searches, and it more turned out to be the basics of safe searches and then kind of building on things. And it was still fairly basic with safe searches, but I still got some really neat things out of it. So, one thing, and you may laugh, I'm pretty experienced in NetSuite, but I had no idea that I could add more things to my little quick action button here, like save searches. So easy to just go and hover over this and click now save search, brings up creation of a new save search. All of these little things that you kind of pick up. I knew that you could add things to it, but I was more thinking records and transactions. I wasn't thinking, say, save searches or customizations or other things that you can add to a quick bar, which is really important for me. Naming conventions, super important for our save searches. Their recommendation, use your initials to start it off so it's easy to go and find those. Be descriptive, because there's no description or field on a save search to be able to describe the use of a save search. So be specific on what it's called so you can find it later. Clicking on total in the summary results, something simple, and I had no idea I could do that. So this is my summary result in a save search. You click on this total, and then it shows you all of the records that make up all of these groups, which I thought, geez, I didn't know that. So I don't know if you guys know that or knew that, but hey, we did a lot of use on min and max, especially on dates, and it's actually reverse thinking on min and max dates. But if you're using formulas, that's pretty important with our financial information and using that. They recommended going to w3schools.com, which is, it's a third party, it's free, learning about pretty much anything technical. Actually, non-technical things I think are included in there. Do a search for SQL. That will give you some really good hints if you're working with formulas and save searches. And there was a link to a Suite Answers doc. It's this tiny URL. This one here. If you scan the QR code on this, it'll take you directly to that as well without writing all down. But I thought that was excellent. Yeah, Lisa, you've done a great document on that as well. That's ongoing. The Iowa user group meeting also opened up their document that they have for tips and tricks around safe searches too. So there's a lot of information that we can maybe bring all together on this, which is fantastic. So well worth taking a peek at that. And actually, I looked this one up, this document, and the first three things were like, wow, that's actually pretty cool. Gets pretty technical immediately. So this was the other Suite answer articles that they had a link to. So I put the actual slide on this, so you don't have to go and find the slides. But got a few more here. Maximizing your value from Suite Cloud platform with NetSuite records. So I won't go into depth on this, but they did have some challenges around inconsistency between standard and custom records. And this session was some of the inadequacies or inconsistencies in NetSuite and what the roadmap is to try to fix some of those. Like as an example, you go into a CSV import and you don't know what fields to actually go and pick because it's different than the record form, which may be different than the save search fields that you're picking, which may be different than your Suite analytics. So they want to bring it all together, and they did put in a new feature that's in all of our releases. I think we're all on 22.2 now. Under setup, go to records catalog, and you will find the new records catalog right built into your instance without going out to Suite Answers. And then they have 3 different record logs, right? Whether you're looking at save searches or connections or scripting, it's all in one spot, which I thought was a good tip as well. So the other 2 extended transaction lines, if you're interested in upselling, cross-selling, bundle sales, interesting, their solution and how they did this with custom records. And the last one was building your first project with SDF and Suite scripts. That was more my personal level. I'm starting to get into scripting and looking at doing my own scripts and build out a Suitelet. I thought it was okay that session, but there's a lot better tutorials out there, either in the learning modules within like NetSuite or on YouTube videos, okay, on how to start building scripts. Okay. And lastly, a little bit fun. So Sweet Stanley and Sally did get married in Vegas. So they were the mascots that were all around the show and the event and the little swag that they were giving out as well, but kind of a fun thing. And they did a whole video on this as well of them getting married. So kind of tongue in cheek. And if the keynote hadn't been delayed by 15 minutes, everybody would have saw the video for this that they worked on. I feel bad for the production crew. Spent all the time and effort to do that, but nobody really saw it. Okay, so that's it for my slides. Next on the agenda, I'll pass it back to you, Darrell, and you can direct traffic on the agenda. And again, if anybody has questions about Suite World, just ping me, just send me a DM, and I'd be happy to help you guys out. But all in all, it was great. It was a great experience.
That was awesome, Mark. Thank you. As Mark said, and I completely agree with him, having attended in 2019 Suite World, it is much better to be there in person. So I'm going to give a brief overview of the on-air experience. Suite World in 2021 that was on air was pretty disastrous. Many of the presenters were presenting from their homes, their internet was poor, and the audio was just absolutely terrible through most of the sessions last year. So it was very difficult to watch it. And overall, however, their capacity was, when you tried to sign in and get into some, almost all of them were generally sold out, not available. So clearly they did an extremely great job of improving it for this year. So the 2022 was a completely better experience this year. I'm just going to advance here. One of the good things they added was their Suite TV that does run at the live show. They sort of have a booth set up there and it's constantly going. By having that running, it really allowed you to always join the on-demand sessions even when your session hadn't started. You could know that the video is working, your camera was working. From there, you could quickly then move over and back and forth. So it allowed you to make sure that you were connected, which was a big issue from the year before. As Mark said, there was a lot of entertainment, keynotes, and so forth, and they did a pretty good job of bringing all of that again to the on-air experience. As Mark said, there was a long delay in started. Well, they were able to fill that back with the Suite TV, unlike just standing in that 15-minute line that Mark had to wait through. So the sessions, before I get to some of what I thought was excellent on here, there was about 180 sessions available in total, which was pretty impressive. Post now, in the recordings and sort of on demand, there's about 119. So many live sessions and so forth were not, in a sense, as Mark said, you got to be there to get the full value. So some of them are not available. But, post now meeting, there are 119. And as Mark said, you can hit Suite Answers and generally find all of the slides. And some of them are truly exceptional. So one of my favorite parts that I liked that was previewed during it was the Suite Answers 2.0. So again, now with sort of AI intelligence, better reading your, call it real world English and typing, it works fabulous. There's so many more videos. And again, a lot of that you've probably seen as you log on to NetSuite each day. There's like, oh, we have a session on this coming next week, another one in a couple of weeks. All those sessions, if you can't get to them, are again, all up in Suite Answers 2.0. So there's an incredible video content library up there. Again, all of them worked out really well that they're giving you those article IDs. So as Mark went to the trouble in his slides, as he mentioned, we will post in the members only section after. All these Suite Answers in these videos also include great links. So you go in and watch a video and there's all sorts of links there of where then you can say, oh yeah, I've never installed drop and drag. So where's the link, and boom, there's your instant link to go find it. So one of the ones Mark didn't touch on, I thought, was intercompany cross-charge automation. So your due to and to from accounts and so forth, there was a lot of improvement in being able to automate some of those charges. For those of you that were in the wrong first meeting like I was this morning, Lisa was talking about she has a customer with 500 subsidiaries. So again, imagine being able to automate some of these processes that you actually had to manually post in the past. One of the other ones is, of course, with this now, there is intercompany netting available. So again, one company owes something, the other company owes back. Again, you can now automate and net these back and forth and actually get an audited statement back. So the auditors are like, oh, yeah, I need some documentation on all this. It produces it all automatically for you. So again, this session is up there. You can go back and relook at it, but there was some great information on that coming. Okay. And again, there was a great graph that shows, okay, you owe this, we'll net it down and just send who knows what in the middle. So a great feature there, which I thought was coming forward. As I mentioned, there's now about 119 sessions available that you can go up and view. One of my favorites actually is Russell, I believe it's pronounced Cull, C-U-L-L. He had an amazing session on Suite Analytics Workbook, how to build better data sets. And as he done, he's an immaculate presenter, which I saw live in 2019. He really guides you through how to build your sessions. So I think we're going to see that on air, is going to be the wave of the future as they continue to have live Suite Worlds each year. I don't think this was just a pandemic thing that just, lingered for one more year. I think we're going to see this as an ongoing feature. Be aware, as Mark said, it was free, but it isn't free at first. They sort of advertise it at $195 for the first couple of weeks, and then all of a sudden it goes to free. So if you're thinking for next year and your budget doesn't allow going to wherever the live session is in Vegas, remember that most likely it will be free after the initial release. That aside, not every session is unlimited. So while many of the sessions were on demand, you can go watch it whenever you want in your day. Other sessions were live broadcast, and they did have limitations on the number that could attend. So if you are planning to do the online version, Soon as you are registered, immediately, I stress to you, go to the sessions you want and book yourself in. And if you can't get in, if something's already sold out, join the wait list. Don't just like, oh, well, I can't get in. By joining the wait list, they clearly saw demand for certain sessions and they added a second viewing of that session available and opened it up and you got notified. So again, some good features there. And overall, really, it's not live, but it was a great virtual experience that was vastly improved from the year before. So that's sort of the on air, because Mark covered a lot of the sessions in his. So from that, I'd like to introduce today's first meeting sponsor. They're actually sister companies, Beanworks and Yapay, and we have two of their people with us. We have Andre and we have Joel. So we really appreciate that. We are a small user group and still in our early years, and support of these vendors goes a long way to help our costs, especially as we want to move back into person and have, you know, a nice breakfast meeting and so forth like we used to. So please, you know, look at what these sponsors have. They'll probably send you some follow-up material. I'm going to be demonstrating Cash 360 following this, but if you want to see the Cadillac, here it is. So with that, I'd like to turn the session over to themselves.
Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Hope everybody's having a good day. Can you hear me okay on your end?
Yep, you're nice and clear.
Beautiful, beautiful. I'll share my screen one moment. There we go. You able to see the screen okay?
Yeah, everything's coming through very nicely, your audio and your visual. Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, welcome everybody. Just to kind of give some context, Beanworks and Yapay were both purchased by Quadient over the last 2 years. Essentially, we make up their new financial automation tools. So from the AP side, Beanworks automates all that data ingestion on the front end, you know, creating that one center source when it comes to actually processing accounts payable, leveraging NetSuite along with other ERPs to be that center of truth for you. And then we have Yapay on the back end, which really takes care of that collections piece. So full automated end-to-end financial processes. That's really what we're trying to bring to the market. And like you said, there has been some functionality increased within the NetSuite space. We've been doing it for about 10 years. So we've really kind of focused in on it and see the best practices. And that's looking what we're going to show you today, along with some tips for finance leaders to really improve their data-driven decision-making. So without further ado, I'll give you a little bit of context on who we are. My name is Andre Pietramala. I'm the business development manager here at Beanworks, specializing in strategic partnerships. So working with user groups, accounting firms, other ISVs, as well as consulting firms and VARs to really spread the word about AP automation and to highlight some of the best practices within the industry. And then I'll pass it off to my colleague here, Joel Ortiag.
Hello, my name's Joel Ortiag. I've been working in the financial automation space for quite some time now and really helping financial professionals looking to automate the full credit to collections to cash receivables. Along the way, teaching users how to mitigate risk by using Yapay. So today, Andre and I will just inform you a little bit more about how we can do that and also be able to show you our products.
Perfect. So you all know that how important accurate financial data is. Maintaining it, sharing it across your team, and using it to drive decision-making is part of your everyday routine. It dictates how you interact with the vendors or customers. It shapes your to-do lists and is a part of everything you do. And of course, it's become harder to manage. Why? It's just more because of the global crisis we went through and how the status quo has really been kind of shifted and thrown out the window. That's why we're focused on the subject. We want to equip you with tried and tested techniques that help you build strong data foundation, which improves your decision-making. Today's webinar is really going to start around focusing on all the data difficulties companies face today. We'll then discuss how we can address these to achieve better financial visibility and accuracy. Then we'll explore how you can actually break down silos you have within your organization. And finally, we'll run through a quick live demonstration of both Beanworks and Yapay. And as the session finishes, we'll be able to do some questions and answers. So please make sure to ask any questions you have during the webinar, and we'll address those at the end. You know, we may touch on some feature sets of the platforms. Both platforms have a tremendous amount of functionality, and just due to time today, we're going to really focus on where we see the most value. And then we can always set up follow-up calls after to really explore the full extent of the platform if need be. So what data difficulties are companies facing in today's world? I'll pass it off to Joelle.
Thanks, Andre. So let's set the scene. In God we trust, all others must bring data. So who exactly is W. Edwards Deming? Well, he was an expert in business philosophy, and his techniques were used by companies to increase work quality and productivity to reduce cost. He was an adamant that business decisions should be based on data and whether we want to do this or not. Decisions based on instinct, speculations, and assumptions. So this quotation has always stuck with me in my finance career. Any success I've achieved has been dependent on successfully tracking, understanding, and using the data available to me. So without data, decisions lack direction, and it's hard to justify a course of action. Just remember, the data is all there and it's all trackable with the right tools and techniques. Your numbers are always telling you something, and to improve performance, you'll need to learn how to understand them and respond appropriately. Of course, data is only effective when it's accurately, ideally captured in real time, but this is hard to achieve. So today, a lot of the data organizations maintain inaccuracy in some way. What you will see on the next slide are some three main findings of Experian's 2021 Global Data Management Research highlights. Businesses believe that almost a third of their data is inaccurate. Also, over half of leaders lack trust in the data they keep. And finally, similar percentages say that improving data is a significant priority. So clearly data is the issue here, and organizations are focused on improving it. The explanation for why data management is challenging but multi-faced. Clearly, some organizations don't have the right tools to capture and make use of real-time financial information. But in the past few years, businesses have had to deal with the external factors and have accelerated this problem. An obvious one is remote work, right? With distributed teams, it's hard for financial professionals to work across the business and access the information they need to make a quick and accurate decision. Second is the unpredictability of cash flow. Perhaps it's become harder to collect cash or pay out. This affects how trackable and predictable financial data is and how it can disrupt the accuracy of forecasting and other modeling. And the third challenge is the data deluge that financial teams have to manage. We're all hearing that there is a valuable of insights to be found in data, but where can and how can you find them? Sometimes there's just too much information to work with, and honing in on that can be difficult.
Okay, so we know there's a problem with data visibility and accuracy. So how do companies really go about fixing it? Let's dig a little bit deeper into the issue. Using manual processes causes a delay in access to data, as documents need to be hunted down and shared. It's easy for things to get misplaced or lost completely, all of which can leave your team without the information they need to make fast and informed decisions. Without this proper visibility, work gets bogged down, but you may not even know it's happening. Research found that 87% of businesses fail to identify performance issues when they don't have access to real-time reporting. This means that problems are slipping through the cracks, and in finance, this means lost revenue. One of the reasons for poor data visibility is because there's a lack of collaboration within the departments. As technology continues to accelerate, challenges, and changes for CFOs and CIOs to actually work together. The first step to building a successful partnership is to create a mutual understanding. And here are 3 steps to get started in that space. Firstly, is learning the CIO terminology so that teams can communicate in a common language. IT departments and finance often have their own unique terminology, including many technical terms that may not be known outside of that specific department. On the finance side, that may mean learning what things like cloud migration, software as a service, or business intelligence mean. On the IT side, it's helpful for members of the tech team to have that knowledge of basic financial terminologies like asset, cash flow, and balance sheets. Online glossaries of common tech and financial terms can support this process in breaking down those silos. It's also vital that you align goals between departments. For instance, finance can work with IT to create an outside-in approach that focuses on the customer impact of decisions, such as implementing a new AP and AR technology. Members of the tech team can also be included in finance meetings so that they're able to provide that insight into how their work impacts the finance strategy. The only real way to make sure that these teams achieve many of their goals, such as increased visibility, is for the departments to collaborate frequently. Whether it's done daily or weekly in meetings or huddles, it doesn't really matter, but people need to have the opportunity to share updates and ask questions. You can't be sure that this will all be managed independently without the encouragement of the team and leadership as a whole. Opening up this channel to enable IT to support the goal of improved data management, and this will be a big impact of the effectiveness of your finance function. An even better approach is to at least semi-automate your financial operations. Statistics show that 7.5% of paper documents end up getting lost completely. So if you're relying on manual filing and documentation, chances are you're losing that visibility. Document management tools can eliminate this by diligently consolidating the information where it can be quickly searched and found. To eliminate data entry errors when moving documentation to a digital format, it's helpful to use OCR, or optical character recognition technology, which extracts data from a printed or written text from a scanned document or image. The best solutions are about 98 to 99% accurate. And the best of all processes is a truly automated solution. Automation can integrate with multiple systems, giving you cross-platform visibility. It pulls all your data from your existing tech stack, consolidates it, and presents it to you in a usable manner. That piece is pretty key. This means that you can stop going back and forth between multiple applications and focus more on the data analysis, which helps you work more effectively. It also provides access to advanced reporting built around KPIs that matter to your company. You can immediately see all that data you need for your reports and can set parameters determining how much or how little information you actually want to see. With remote and hybrid teams established as the new normal, businesses are increasingly looking into agile business principles to succeed. The ability to set goals quickly, continuously monitor results, and adjust methodology as needed depends on real-time information that can be accessed anywhere at any time.
So that's the visibility side taken care of, but what about achieving data accuracy? Manual data entry leaves businesses susceptible to human error. Firms reliant on this experience a 1% error rate. That might not sound like much at first, but imagine the impact of 10 out of every 1,000 invoices in your system being wrong. This slows down cash flow, and time spent correcting information takes attention away from revenue generating activities. When these data errors happen, it takes time for members of the finance team to dig through files to try to find the appropriate records and identify where mistakes have been taken. It's also expensive. Studies indicate that it takes around $1 to verify data is accurate before putting it in, but as much as $10 to correct it later. So without automation, there are a few things that you can do to ensure data accuracy. Start by eliminating multi-points of data entry. Establishing consistency where and how data is input is key to minimizing errors. It's also important to centralize all financial information so that it isn't spread out between multiple systems or multiple places. Having data in one place that is readily accessible is another important step in establishing accuracy. Using cloud-based storage makes this far easier and increases accessibility as well. When it comes to accounts payable, it's useful to create a formal approval process so that every invoice goes through the same standard process and the necessary steps are well documented and known throughout your team. On top of this, it's vital to promote accountability among managers to check details along the way. Informal communication methods open the door for lost information and make it difficult to audit the process for accuracy and efficiency. It's best to stop practices such as using email to request approvals and paper-based expense receipts. Instead, approvals should be tracked in a spreadsheet with shared access to improve visibility. So smart solutions. As mentioned, we discussed visibility. Adopting document management tool is a vital step to protecting your data. It safeguards it in an event of physical damage loss, ensuring that you have the necessary data to make decisions. Using a digital document solution with OCR technology improves accuracy of data entry and allows you to input large amounts of data quickly. You can batch scan numbers of invoices and send them as a group to approvers. Imagine how much time and effort that would save for your team. And if we consider, again, the manual data entry contains 1% error rate, again, that means 10 out of every 1,000 invoices could be wrong. Now multiply that by the number of systems the data has to be moved to and the number of errors that quickly escalates. Automation eliminates this concern because it automatically integrates with your various other systems like a CRM and ERP and consolidates that data. This means you don't have to transfer information. With the visibility, benefits, and increased data accuracy, it becomes much easier for companies to create cash flow forecasting with detailed information on how much your company owes, and when it is owed to you, you are likely to receive it. It's a far simpler to create an accurate image for your financial future. So on the AP side, automation can help reduce your overall exception rate by eliminating bad data due to human error. Exceptions take time to resolve, and that can ultimately save results in late payments. By reducing your exception rate, the process runs smoothly, reducing risk of late fees, fines, and damaged relationships with vendors.
Perfect. So we're looking at that consolidation piece, that automation piece, and now what we really need to focus on and how we break down those silos that inherently, occur within the companies themselves. So first, let's evaluate how the data and these silos actually occurs and the challenges they pose. Multiple systems, it really is the brunt of this, right? It's stopping teams from being able to peer into the inner workings to determine the root causes of process delays and missed payments. Financial processes, comprise of multiple steps, and mistakes in any of these can lead to errors that hinder cash flow. Something as simple as an incorrect billing address or a pricing selection can add days to the time it takes to receive the payments, and without centralized data, these errors will always occur. Without the right technology, data reconciliation takes time and effort. This inefficiency is costly. According to a EY survey, 59% of finance departments' resources are spent managing transaction-intensive processes, and around 95% of this effort is wasted on transactions that already match rather than problem entities that actually require attention. 70% of CFOs said that making AR processes more transparent would boost their customers' lifetime value. The AR process must clearly be defined so that internal teams understand each step and can effectively manage customer expectations. Likewise, establishing a consistent process with customers, such as contact them at specific times during the invoice lifecycle, fixing cutoff dates, is important to eliminate ambiguity and set expectations. The same consistent experience being established in accounts payable. Maintaining good vendor relationships has an impact on the terms and conditions you are offering in your contracts and can make a big difference to your company's cash flow as a whole. There are ways to manage data in that absence of automation, truly. First is to conduct a data discovery audit. This involves putting together a plan to consolidate data from multiple sources. For it to be effective, you need to establish a regular cadence for this activity and ensure that the right people and teams are involved consistently to contribute to this information. The second is to the second element is to actually implement a cloud-based tool to centralize that information. It can be as simple as Google Drive, honestly. Establishing this approach enables teams to be able to access up-to-date data without always having to go back and exchange it, back and forth and have those kind of manual conversations. The third element, which is particularly important for this hybrid remote workforces, is making sure that there are daily and weekly sessions at a minimum that connect the right people and enable teams to ask questions and resolve issues. This is something that should be enforced by leadership across the finance and tech departments as they work with each other to achieve a common goal. Things like customer success, sales, and legal all should be involved. Maintaining this open forum that allows people to informally address issues is not only important to staying on top of things, it also maintains a regular dialogue between teams that should have open and close working relationships. So, in the context of accounts payable specifically, how does automation really help? It provides you with a complete oversight of the accounts payable process, helping you quickly identify any bottlenecks within that process. To protect your company's cash flow, you don't want to pay late. You can this can result in fines, fees, and really damage those relationships. But unless there's a financial incentive to do so, you also don't really want to pay too early, right? It's better to keep that money in your pocket. And visibility is a tool that provides, or visibility within the automation helps you provide that clear line to help you thread that needle. It also helps you track, PO from the time it's been received up to the point it's been paid. This reduces the risk that a bill gets lost in the shuffle and helps eliminate any time that was previously spent hunting down information that you'd actually need for that process. And by knowing where any given invoice is at any time, you're able to maintain a better overall grasp of your company's financial situation, what money you have, what money is spoken for, and when it is paid. This in turn helps you make better financial decisions when planning.
All right, and now on the accounts receivable side. So integrating automation is equally valuable. It gives you centralized and real-time source of customer information that can be accessed by an organization's teams at any time from anywhere. This detailed data is fundamental to cross-department collaboration. So for example, it makes it easy for your sales team to coordinate with your AR department when assessing things such as creditworthiness and what type of terms to extend. This ensures you onboard reliable customers while also supporting your sales team's efforts to set up a customer's contract as quickly as possible. The third element is to mention how automation can help you predict customer payment behavior. This is extremely valuable to protecting your cash flow and reducing your DSO. And now we're going to give you a quick demo of each solution. So I'll hand it off to Andre to first do our AP automation with the Beanworks product.
Perfect. So I'm just going to flip tabs over here. Now, what we're looking at today is Beanworks in its absolute fullest extent. And I'll call out the elephant in the room at the very top here. It says Sage AP automation. This is just a white labeled version for a Sage customer. But the reason that I'm drawing your attention to this is this would normally say Beanworks or something along the lines of NetSuite, depending on the user. Additionally, one key feature around this platform is in ERP agnostic. So you, as you support your clients, maybe they are multi-entity or multi-subsidiary, and they haven't fully transferred over to NetSuite at that point, you can still consolidate and centralize that whole accounts payable workflow all within one solution. As we continue to walk around the actual interface here, the left-hand side is all of our core modules, and everything is fully activated and turned on in this demo instance. So we have everything from expenses, purchase orders, invoices, and payments, a full procure to pay workflow outside of NetSuite and within our tool. Now, this is a bit of a white space in which we operate in. Some of the other AP solutions are able to do, similar variations of OCR and AI, but where they maybe lack is in this true end-to-end process that you can consolidate in one platform. Now, again, this is a super user. And so with our tool, you can actually curate any version of this that you would need for that particular user. In addition to being, highly customizable at that user level, we also offer unlimited free user licenses. I'll say that one more time, unlimited free user licenses. So now you can empower people who are actually involved in the accounts payable process without having to provide them with a NetSuite user license, for that 1 or 2 times a month they may need to be involved in the approval process. You can bring the people outside of the platform and leave that as the center of truth for the people who truly need to be within NetSuite to make that whole process work. So say if I'm a manager and I need to approve my department's invoices, my actual user interface would be much more stripped down, and it would be just this invoice tab and just that approvals tab. So highly consolidated and makes for the easiest user experience as possible. As we come across the top, this create down to archive is consistent in each module. So the user experience as they go into add functionality remains consistent, mitigating any of that change management process. And the only thing that really changes is the color. So it makes it nice and easy for everybody. As we come into the actual work document, this is your brand new consolidated AP inbox. So we can reroute any existing email inboxes, or you can provide new ones to your vendors. And this is where, again, all of those emailed PDFs or handwritten documents can come in and be automatically coded. And it can be centralized across any number of legal entities or subsidiaries that you would need. So I know we talked about the case where, we had 500 subsidiaries. You could potentially have 500 org units down the left-hand side here, consolidate everything, and then restrict user access. So your team of accountants, when they would come in, they would open it up and only really have access to those specific entities, right? So this could be company number 1, all the departments underneath it, company 2, etc. In addition, this could be a Sage client. This could be a NetSuite client. Maybe your NetSuite company is purchasing and acquiring lots of smaller QuickBooks companies and transferring them into their NetSuite license. Well, maybe they can't do that in an expedient time. These could all be QuickBooks companies as well. And again, we remain with one consistent workflow, all in one solution. Now, not only are we able to ingest emailed documents, I understand some companies are still working off of paper, unfortunately. Now, rather than scanning each document one at a time, file, save, upload, or hand coding them in manually, you can do a bulk scan. In this case, we have 18 individual invoices scanned as one document. The click of a button, we split them up, and now we have 18 individual invoices. And you might be saying, well, what if they're 2-page, 3-page? All you have to do is come in and you can drag and drop and create all these invoices as they need to be entered appropriately. Save, create, and they'll waterfall in and join all of those already emailed documents. As we come into the actual document capture, we'll jump into an invoice here. Automatically, we're using OCR to capture all the invoice details, things like legal entity, owner, vendor, PO number if there's one attached, date, due date, etc. We can also take it a step farther and use AI to capture the line item details. So OCR, I know it's a new thing in the NetSuite space. I would consider this table stakes. If you're evaluating any AP solution and they say, OCR is their biggest selling feature, then they're about 10 years too late, right? This is the absolute bare minimum that any AP solution should provide you when evaluating any AP solution. And the way we take it a bit further is 3 methodologies for capturing all the line item details. Firstly, is that true level of AI that can go in and read the document, strip it down, and populate these for you, builds proficiency backed up by a verification team during that learning phase, and it will ultimately hit a 99% accuracy rating. So that's our most premier offering. Secondly, is what we would call smart code, and that lives up here. And what that does is it builds off of the repetitive nature that is accounts payable. So say you're getting that same invoice month in, month out, and you have to actually code it in a unique way. You do that the first time, and then that next time that same invoice comes in, with the click of a button, it will match that whole invoice as it had been done that first time. So it's more of that syntax matching. And the third way is actually through purchase orders. So if the PO is within the system, and again, that PO can either be generated within our tool or created in NetSuite, we can still import all of that detail, complete the match within the same screen, and use PO adoption to actually scrape the document and capture all those line item details. So again, 3 ways of really automating the full process to reduce what was a very manual task of hand coding and everything to just a visual check and then a visual submission. So again, smart code in the top corner and PO adoption down here. So 3 methods of capturing everything. Once everything looks good, save and submit for approval. And this again is where we can really build workflow automation, break down silos, and empower teams, whether they're within the financial team or just within the company, to have that visibility on where that money is going and what money is actually leaving the company. From the user experience on the approval side, it's as simple as a green thumbs up, red thumbs down, right? You get all the information that you would need. If there's any backup documents, etc., you'd have those all within the palm of your hand. We have a native iOS and Android application, so this allows approvals to be taken on the go. You get the ping to your phone, you go up and you can action them, helping break down bottlenecks and get projects off the ground faster. Now at the user interface level, it's as simple as can be. In the back end is where we can actually create and empower teams to have that control within their process. Global approval channels are a section of approvals that supersede every other org unit's approval channels. And what I mean by that is, say if you're managing 5 or 6 locations potentially, all as legal entities within NetSuite, but anytime there's a purchase over 25,000, that doesn't live at their level, that lives at head office. We want to make sure that we see it first before it goes to the approvals on their end. So this is where you can create own internal compliance, managing multiple entities at once. But then we can also go in and really dig and build out any approval chain that we would ever need. In this instance, we're into one of our legal entities in one of their departments, and we have a dollar threshold and that org unit filter. You can also add things like GL code, vendors. We can have custom fields that allow you to go in, and if a checkbox is ticked, then it's subject to another approval section. If they're matched to an expense, if they're matched to a purchase order, right? We can build out any level of complexity, and ultimately we're not using just approvals, we're building out workflow that allows the appropriate people, limited for users again, so you can empower your team to bring over, anybody that you would need. Maybe we'll say this is something from our chef. We understand that the chef would probably know when a like piece of equipment is needed for the kitchen, more so than maybe the CEO or CFO. It would be that first layer of approval, and then it can bounce up in that hierarchy all the way to the CFO or CEO. And internally, we joke that oftentimes these two people, the CFO and the CEO, are actually the worst at approving anything. Things go and die in their inbox just because of their busy schedule. So you can actually create batch approvers. You don't care which one of them actually approves it. Both of them have that C-level executive authority. So it empowers the team, gets them both on that approval process. Whoever actions it first, it removes them from the work of the other, right? So building efficiencies, reducing bottlenecks, and breaking down those silos, all leveraged through the approval workflow. Now, this level of approvals actually exists at every module within Beanworks. So you can create this level on purchase order requisitions and on the payments piece too. So we can actually pull those publishables back out of the ERP and then run them through a similar approval process before anything ever gets paid. Now, after everything's gone through a sufficient approval process, it's really the easiest part of everything. We have all of these approved invoices that you can either manually select them all and schedule that export and push it directly into the ERP as if you'd hand coded them themselves. Again, so this could be representative of 15 different companies, all consolidated into one workflow. And then upon export, each entity is integrated at that level, not at the domain level. So when we do export, it's going across all of their respective unique GL codes. So everything is consolidated, but remains consistent where it matters most, in that center of truth, their ERP. Finally, we do have the archive. This is your new digital filing cabinet. This allows you to have quick access to generate reports with a click of a few buttons. And this is all stored within, I believe, 7 years, but we haven't actually had anything expire yet. So up to 10 years generally. And at any point, you can actually, download these and keep them for yourself on an external hard drive. We see tremendous value for this in things like audits, where again, with unlimited free users, you can provide a restricted user access to an auditor to come into that archive tab and have access to everything. In this case, we have a vendor report, Amazon. Rather than scrolling down to find that respective, corresponding invoice, all of these are deep linked. So you just click the number, and it pulls you directly to that invoice. You get all of the actual vendor information, an image of the invoice itself, and a full digit audit log of the approval history right within the application. So providing a tremendous amount of visibility in the reporting, as well as a tremendous amount of visibility in the entire accounts payable process. Now, any of these modules can be used independently. Invoices has come standard, so you have to use that one. And then if you needed purchase orders, you could add it. If you needed payments, you could add it. But it's really flexible and modular by design. So each client's use case may be different. And at any given point, this line is essentially the ERP, right? We're pushing just good, clean data directly into the hands of the accountants within the ERP who need to access that. So ultimately, destroying silos within the company by empowering everybody to become a user within the system, taking all that time away from actual manual data entry, which is actually crippling a lot of the accounts payable professionals, having to spend 3/4 of their week just doing data entry, and then providing a nice user experience and keeping those people who need to be in the ERP there and bringing everybody else out. So again, a very high level overview. Again, we can pull those actual data out and pay them, but that might be for another day, just to be cognizant of time. And I know we have a lot on the accounts receivable side that we should get into as well. So Joelle, I'll pass the screen over to you and we can continue from there.
Thanks, Andre. Okay. And now onward for our accounts receivable demo. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, yep, everything
Yep,
is looking
okay.
just fine. Yep.
Just wanted to make sure. Great. Okay, so here we'll open up to our dashboard. So YayPay has a direct integration with NetSuite built out. About 70% of our customer base are NetSuite users. So very strong, reliable connector, strong customer base there as well. What we're going to be able to do with this AR tool is really from the dashboard, consolidate and find out where all that cash is sitting and where our risk truly lies. So here we'll be able to pull in all our AR, what bucket it sits in. So if there's anything that's in the paid amount, some promised pay, overdue, and current. We can get a little bit more granular if we wanted to expand or take a closer look at with specific dates in this clear snapshot. We could bring as many subsidiaries from NetSuite that is necessary. So we'll have different viewpoints, and we can also provide a roll-up view as well if that was desirable. We'll have some simple KPIs such as DSO, cash collection, open invoices, and how those are tracking from week to week. From here, we can print this off to a PDF. A lot of CFOs just want to see, okay, where's that cash? Where's my risk? Be able to send that on over as we need to as well. Our average days to pay, this downward trending graph as that cash is coming in more quickly. Then want to bring your attention to this highlighted grading system here, this colorful letter scoring. What YayPay has the ability to do is pull in about a year's worth of health history from those payers, be able to score them based off that, and then also have future predictability measurements as well. So Reardon Steel, we're seeing there an A in the past. Maybe this is a white glove payer, but there's a downward trending arrow indicating something's going on with that account. So probably something I want to take a closer look at. Here we could see Stark Industries. They're a D with a downward trending arrow, probably an overall poor payer. So want to get some other communication style based off that risk there. With our open invoices, we're looking at what's current and overdue by date and amount. Our email reminders have all pixelation embedded into them. So this is extremely valuable when we need to have insights to see what's even been open. So sent, viewed, failed is most important because we could see if that billing contact perhaps changed. Just want to capture this right away to take more of that proactive approach rather than reactive. Cash collection, what's that volume looking like per day? Looks like October 4th here was a high volume day. And then two really valuable graphs for on the dashboard directly. Our on-time payment projections for current invoices. So this is what we call our true forecasting graph. We're going to be able to look into the future to see what's exactly projected to be unpaid in that light blue, projected to be paid, and then in that promise to pay. With this unpaid amount, we can drill down all the way to the company name, the invoice number, and then the probability of that even being paid out. So again, forecasting into the future, where's that risk going to lie, and then capture it and take action. And last but not least, our expected time of payment of past due totals without a promise to pay. Oftentimes, AR teams are shifting through an aging report, going off that oldest invoice, and just kind of following up based off that, but not identifying where that risk may actually lie. What we can do is drill down into the invoice number, the account name, and then the age of this invoice and the probability if it's going to be paid or past due. Dunder Mifflin here, 8 days overdue, but the probability of that coming in within the first 30 days may not be exactly where that risk lies. But here, Reardon Steel, 5 days overdue, but the probability of that being 90 plus days past due does identify that as a more risky invoice, more risky account. Therefore, we'll want to set some strategies based off that. From there, our workflows, this is really the heart and soul of the full automation tool with this collections workflow. Here, the teams will be able to set up a strategy based off different communication styles they want to go out to, when and why. You can base these off frequency, maybe our risk levels. So we see low touch, low risk, maybe not getting as much communication as these high touch, high risk workflows do. So we can really ramp things up and design it the way you want to. We can also set them up by location, business size, service level, whatever is appropriate for them. But let's just take a look at a high touch, high risk workflow to understand the power of automation and how we can really follow up to improve the cash flow. An example may be if we start with an email, 2 days after it's created, let's go ahead and scrape over this invoice directly from NetSuite, pulling that over in the billing contact in a pre-made template that's already formatted to this particular workflow. If no payment was received, we may have a call queue up in the queue so that we can have that being followed up with so someone on the team knows what to call about. We can also see this pixelation come to life. So if the email wasn't open within a certain amount of time, go ahead and separate another invoice over, pulling at that billing contact and the template at once more. As things are overdue, we may ramp with more calls. And as I mentioned with the presentation earlier, we even have the ability to loop in some internal stakeholders such as sales and customer success if there's delinquency that's occurring as well. With these workflows, we do have an unlimited amount. No IT resources necessary to build them. We could create them directly on the fly and adjust them as we need to. Let me go back here to some other examples that we can automate with this workflow. We have global rules that are set up. So this is a blanket of actions we want to happen within the customer base. So identifying some customer rules, maybe capturing when the score decreased to a D, probably an informational piece that we want to set a to-do item around. Or if an email has bounced, we'll trigger something back. We could get a little bit deeper on the invoice level as well. So if a dispute's open, maybe want to automate some type of messaging, and then getting all the way down to the payment level as well. A common one is if a payment's declined, maybe a partial payment, and even a great customer service aspect is if a payment's received, sending a simple thank you to the customer, knowing that it was received. Again, we could do this with 3 layers: payment, invoice, and customer level. We have some email templates here that is a customizable way for that specific messaging to go to the appropriate people. So maybe don't want that canned approach, but really a customizable approach that sounds with the tone of the organization. And then of course, just some informational pieces that match directly up with NetSuite. So we could see these dynamic data tags here pulling in so there's no room for human error. Some big marketplace differentiator about YayPay is that we can also send physical mail. So oftentimes some organizations still require physical mail to be sent out. YayPay has the capability of automating that whole process as well. So I keep mentioning triggering to-do items. So where would those live and how would someone know what they need to follow up with? We have a full task list built into YayPay as well, so that collectors or specialists know exactly what needs to be followed up with, what the priority level is, customer detail, all the way down to the invoice level as well. They can simply log these complete as the action is taken place, seeing anything that's open, current, overdue, and completed, add any notes, assign a reminder, add a task on the fly if they need to as well. So really being able to capture why we need to follow up and what we're taking action on. We'll get a bit deeper into some reporting here with our aging report. I'm sure this is all too familiar with the team, but we're identifying where all the aging is, any statuses we can drill in. We could also bring any custom fields we need to from NetSuite, and then being able to action directly from this account if I need to escalate them to workflows, reassign, take a payment, send a reminder, and so forth. Let's take a look at what it would look like for an account. So now we're taking it a step deeper, being able to pull in all the aging for this particular customer as well, any internal contacts as well as external, any open, closed credit lines, payments, adjustments that were made. We do know this is about a 5-page step within NetSuite, so we're really consolidating it for a viewpoint for those customers or for the internal stakeholders to see where everything lies. Our activity ledger, this is twofold. So anything that's happened both internally and externally will be able to be tracked here. Any email, call logs, notes. We can push notes and payment activity back to NetSuite. That is huge for customers to be able to do so. We also have a customer facing portal. So here, sending off a one-off email, and then having the ability to have a click to pay link. It'll be branded to the customer, pulling in that invoice. Here are those dynamic data tags I mentioned. Click this link, which brings them to their customer facing portal. This is where we'll expedite that payment and really have that customer be able to self-service. So clicking one or more invoices, being able to be paid credit card, ACH, EFT for our Canadian folks, and then also being able to log any promise to pay, dispute, partial payment, and download what they need to. From this portal to two-way communication. So if they need to send any type of email to us, we'll be able to be notified of it immediately. Okay. We also have some simple modules built in here. So our invoices, this is a library of all the invoices that are open, what their statuses are, again, what bucket they're in. You're getting used to this look and feel of YayPay now. Everything's clean, concise, and what is a major differentiator about YayPay is all the modules speak to each other. So unlike some of our competitors in the space, everything has been built in-house. So things aren't siloed. You're going to receive communication if this invoice has been actioned on back to the customer record as well. Our communications is an out of the box of the email server that is provided from the customer. So being able to respond, escalate, and then bringing in that additional information. We have a robust reporting module built into YayPay as well. So if we need to get a little bit more granular with the data, we can find those specifics and then be able to automate any report that we need to hit any inbox within the organization at any time. A common one is every Monday or every Friday, getting that clear snapshot of payments. So here's an example of that, and then all the data associated with it. Wanted to take a look at a resolution center for dispute management. This is a great tool for high volume dispute management. So it's also that two-way communication from the customer. We could pull in the specific dispute IDs, codes, all the way down to the invoice level, be able to add a two-way communication. So Wayne Enterprises, that was the customer communicating with us, and also add attachments. So if it's perhaps a product damage, a shortage, pricing, add any type of attachments we need for proof, resolve that. And it will forever live in the resolution center in this dispute management tool as well. And then last but not least, wanted to show our credit module. As we onboard customers, assessing credit risk is essential. Needing to understand if our customers are going to pay us based off some credit worthiness really helps elevate the whole strategy behind collections as well. We have a very easy dynamic application form to save this template off and deploy to the appropriate customers. We do run credit inquiries where we integrate directly with CreditSafe and Dun & Bradstreet to pull in what they're deeming as credit worthiness, and then be able to establish some credit scorecards. So credit is not one size fits all for all customers. We'll pull in payment scores, years in business, maybe what DNB is saying, be able to weight these, and then establish workflows based off these credit scores too. So if the customer is dipping below a certain threshold, make sure that we're putting that in, flagging it when it's done, or even sending an automated communication, identifying that to the customer that they're at risk and maybe services might shut off. So different parameters based off that, but that's all built into YayPay. Like Andre said, we are also unlimited users. We are module based, so we like to scope out the project with our customers to ensure that they're getting the modules they need and what's really scoped for them. So very flexible with that as well. And again, that key point of unlimited users is major. But now I think we are going to do a Q&A. If there's any questions in regards to our products or what you heard today, we are here to answer.
Feel free, anyone, to unmic and ask any questions. That was very thorough, but
No questions?
I don't see any in the chat. So I want to thank both of you for coming to our meeting. That was outstanding. I know it's something that our company has been looking at CTM for a while now and got delayed with the pandemic, but automating some of that is obviously crucial as you talk about. So thank you again very much for being at our meeting.
Of
Happy
course.
to.
And
Thanks for having us.
thanks for having us.
All right, everyone. We are going to tighten up the meeting a bit today since we got started about a half hour late with my meeting switch up. We did have a second sponsor planned with Demand Driven. We're going to move them over to the January meeting since we don't want to run too late and respect everyone's time. So we're going to continue on now with our Cash 360 demo and then go to our Bring a Question, which has been very popular. So at our spring meeting, several of the members had all asked for a demo on Cash 360. It came out in the 2022.1 version, but unlike some previous versions of NetSuite, it didn't sort of automatically come into your organization. You actually have to go choose and install it. So we're going to go through that quick process today. The slide deck that will get posted to the members only section has a complete list of all the steps I'm going to go through here. It is actually very quick and easy. So don't need to take any notes or anything. You can come back here and see these afterwards. So with that, we're going to head on to a live demo and, pass over slides. So let me just switch screens over. Is everybody seeing our ONSG NetSuite?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So one of the first steps is that you need to install this. So you simply go to the Suite apps, and you must be an administrator to do this, and search simply for Cash 360. It will come and you can jump into it and simply hit and install. So the install's sort of up and running, and it will take a little bit. In the meanwhile, while this is installing, what you need to do is going to be adding it to a role. So you cannot add it to a standard role. It has to be a customized role. So most likely you have customized roles, but I was going to quickly show that. So it's Setup, Users, Manage Users. Just open this in a new tab. Sorry. Setup. Quite there. We're on the roles. So I'm going to take our Chief Financial Officer role and customize it. To customize it, you simply got to give it a different name. So we've gone with ours, ONSUG, and that's all I'm going to do. By simply doing that and saving it, you now have a custom role. If you come back to your list, you will see you can now edit that role. You still always will have the standard role that came sort of out of the box with your NetSuite. Okay, so let's go back and check on how our Suite app is doing. And if we look at customization, Suite Builder, search installed apps and list, and it should be coming in here, and it's still in the process. We've run into a little problem. If we're going to fail again. So one of the big gotchas in this, in that most times if you are in as administrator, you simply see everything. This is very unusual for NetSuite, that you as administrator cannot see this area, the Cash 360. It was sort of a big curve when I first looked at it. We seem to be having some trouble. So what I'm going to do is switch over to my company's one, which we've already installed it. So we'll just go from there that there has been an install. And 1 sec. Okay, so the next part is that you need to add it to a role. So when we come to, again, set up users and manage roles, you will go to your CFO role, your accounting roles, whatever will have it, but it must be somebody that uses the accounting centers. So get up into customize our role. So the little hidden checkbox that people don't notice is this one right here, Cash 360 Access. You need to check this off to allow this role to see it. From there, even with that added, it will still not work. The next step, which is, again, they threw a couple little curveballs in this, is that you need to go to various permissions. So across the permission list, and again, the documents I put up in the slideshow have a complete list of these, but you will need to go to, for instance, like lists, and you need to do custom records, needs to be, for instance, full. So things like that, if they were not already set, you would need to add them, right? In the financial custom record, you actually need to then add the Cash 360 dashboard. So there are a series of these. I won't go through them all. There's about 7 or 8 that you need to go through and add in order for these to work. They are actually very straightforward to do, but without them, they don't appear. So again, I've gone through, I've added them all. Noticed I'm in as administrator. Well, I can't see it. You will not be able to get to the Cash 360 dashboard no matter what you do here. You do have to move over into a controller financial type role that has access to the accounting center. Once you do that, so again, from now, you can now go to financial, Cash 360 will appear. This would not have appeared before in the administrator role or if you had not turned on all those various permissions. From there, you can look at the dashboard. And at this point, you can get to various financial information. Okay, there's the bank balance, the receivable, the payables, and so forth. Now, what I'm going to do is, normally I would show this in our own. This is actually my company's data, which I don't want to put out here today. So it is pretty straightforward. I apologize that we are not able to get this up into our normal ONSUG, but the dashboard layout there is very straightforward. It is literally giving you a real-time look into the accounts payable. It's giving you a real-time look into the accounts receivable. Again, this is great for those, in a sense, people managing the cash flow. They're not sometimes the AR person, the AP, they're maybe the controller, the CFO. They can directly click on those and drill down into see any of them. From there, you can actually set preferences. You can say you want it daily, weekly, monthly. And from there, it does its own sort of AI prediction. It looks at what has your collection rates been like on, 0 to 30, 30 to 60, so forth. Looking at then what is out there, it predicts what you are going to bring in and does a forecast for you. This is very basic. This is basically your accounts payable and your accounts receivable, and that is all. So you do have the option of adding very easily on the dash screen other areas. So let's say you want to add in payroll or taxes. Maybe you've got some large capital purchases coming up. These are very easy to do, that you simply go and add that chart of account to it. It will now start tracking that for you. You can also add in set amounts. So out of the box, with just a few minutes of doing an install and a couple of permissions, you can give, in a sense, your controller and CFO looks on, in a sense, both sides, AP and AR, directly and drill down capability. It still respects all security in NetSuite. Meanwhile, with a little extra adding, you can actually build a fairly reasonable cash prediction model. But again, you have to then do extra work to add those various, avenues in, like payroll, capital, so forth. So questions from anybody?
Darrell, that's awesome. That's really good.
Like I said, I apologize that for some reason it not seem to be installing into our, we are given, by the way, from NetSuite, a free, in a sense, NetSuite instance for the user group. And for some reason, it doesn't seem to be authorizing it in that. It should, because it's a free model, part of 22.1 and then 22.2, but for some reason it's not going in. So I'll have to look at that. I had wanted to do that live and hadn't pre-done it. So, all right, we are trying to keep it tight today. I apologize for the delay in the starting. So normally we would have gone over to our second sponsor today. We have, like I said, moved them to start off our January meeting. So based on that, we're going to wrap up with our bring a question. So let me just get back to the slides. And before we do, I just want to mention that our January meeting is already set on Thursday, January 19th. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Mark for bring a question. I don't think you need any presentation, right, Mark?
No, I think that's fine. There's just a couple other things that I wanted to do just before that, just to wrap up the meeting too, is we have some open board positions. So we are looking for a co-chair, we're looking for a recording secretary and a co-speaker chair. So 3 positions on the board. If you do have interests, please send to me, mtanner@danby.com. Or I think it's info@onsug.org as well. It's on our website. Yeah, about those positions, and we'll chat about that at our next board meeting as well. I know we don't have a lot of people on this call. We have 16 still. Maybe just a show of hands, who would like to meet in person, or at least have an option to meet in person? You maybe just do the reactions and put your hand up. Yeah, a few of you. Okay, that's great. Thank you. And again, most likely hybrid moving forward. That's how we started as well. It's in person as well as remote. And I have been toying around the idea, this bring a question session has been pretty popular the last couple. We're not going to have a lot of time today, but I was thinking of setting up something on a calendar, whether it's every month, and I don't know what the timing would be, whether it be late in the day, early in the day, after hours, after work hours, but just a virtual meetup session where we just talk and chat and ask questions and try and help each other out. Just no agenda or anything, no fixed agenda to work on for our board members, but seeing if there's some interest around that. So we may put out a survey on a few of these questions as well, just to the group. But thanks, Nicholas. I agree. I think it would be really good and neat to do as well. Okay. So bring a question. So yeah, we don't have any agenda on this one. Does anybody have questions that they would like to just ask? I'll try to answer, or anybody on the group can try to answer as well. And I think in some of these sessions, we do have some shy people sometimes that don't want to necessarily ask the question.
I'll kick one off. As Mark mentioned, everybody should probably be on 22.2 at this point. I think, the third cycle is finished. Has anybody had any major issues that you've had to deal with?
I can start. We have an issue right now where we're not able to access our GST reporting. So we're not able to access our country reporting page at all. We just found out about this yesterday, and we have an open ticket with NetSuite. I'd be curious to know if anybody else on the call has had this issue.
Nicholas, are you using a third party as well, like Avalara or anything?
No, we're not. We're using Sweet Tax Engine.
Sweet Tax. Okay, we're not using Sweet Tax, and I have not heard any issues around GST in ours. So maybe it's isolated to Sweet Tax as well, at least in my experience so far. Anybody else?
We're on Avalara, and we actually only had our rollover a week ago, actually, and haven't seen an issue so far.
I haven't seen anything else, Darrell, with the new release or any hiccups along with it. We did have some performance issues right as soon as we kicked over, and we did raise a ticket on that, and they discovered a defect that was part of our account, and they since fixed that within a couple of days of us reporting it, which was good.
Yeah,
I
one of
have
the
a
other,
question. Oh,
go ahead, Maggie. Go ahead, Maggie. Yep.
Um, are any of you familiar with the NetSuite Analytics Warehouse module?
I have looked at it, but I have not done a deep dive on it, Margie, not at this time.
Okay, I read the data sheet, but I'm still didn't give me a lot of information.
So we made a decision probably about a year ago to export our data to an Azure blob on a schedule. And we had a third-party partner that helped us with that. And then we pull all of our data into Power BI. So I have data refreshing hourly on Delta files that bring it into Power BI, and we absolutely love that type of reporting. So we have no limitations as to unlimited joins, bringing in external data that is not part of NetSuite. You name it, we can do it in Power BI.
Okay.
Mark,
So we kind of did-
Mark did a very good demo of all this, which would be in the report. It's part of some of the recording, but not, because again, it was, Danby data. We don't always record that for privacy, but he did a demo of this. I believe it was 2 meetings back, Mark, or 3,
Yeah.
and it would be up in the user group section. And it was really impressive. So again, we turned off the recording and he actually shared with us some live Danby interaction, and it was incredibly impressive.
With Power BI. Okay.
That's right. And
Okay,
Margie,
thank you.
we can chat offline about that. And if you want a quick demo, we can set up a one-on-one and do that.
And being able to bring in something other than NetSuite was a huge plus with that. It was really, and the slicing and dicing and moving around, I want to say at a basic user. So once Mark had set up they call it the back end, you could have people with very low, in a sense, technical skills work the front end and get the answers they need. It was quite impressive.
Thank you.
Our external data would be Google Analytics. So where the web pages hits, time of day, we align that with marketing campaigns to see what our hit rates are, because we're not on Suite Commerce. So another good example is our phone system. So we tie our phone system records nightly into our case record creation as well, so that we see if there's defects in our product, is there high rates on a certain product or call volume, alerts that way, and then do performance reporting daily with both systems, right? NetSuite for cases, but phone calls are outside of NetSuite, obviously, and handled by our IP phone system. Anyone else?
Mark, quick question on Cash 360.
Yeah.
Do you have a document that outlines kind of all of the prerequisites for setup? So again, is 360, the technical install is pretty, if there weren't technical glitches, would be pretty straightforward, but you need to have all of the other pieces kind of in order. Is there something that outlines that so that we can review that if something we can move forward with?
See, Darrell just dropped off. I think he was having internet issues. Oh, here he's back. I am looking on the Cash
Sorry,
360.
I just dropped off there, Mark. There is, if you go to the Suite Answers 2.0 and just Google, just type in Cash 360, Marco, there's a really good guide. It says setting up, it goes there. And as you finish each step, it in a sense gives you the next document below. So when you finish the setup, then it says, okay, here's where to go do the permissions. You do the permissions. The next step is actually then your preferences. Do you want it daily, weekly, monthly, which is the exact order of these, the links that I put in these slides, which will go up, but it is well laid out on Suite Answers.
Perfect. Thanks, Darrell. But I guess my question is more around the transactional data that feeds Cash 360. Is there
So-
kind of requirements for that as well, or not?
So
really?
there literally is zero pre-setup. So it simply reaches into your accounts receivable, looks at what you've had in the past and bases it off of that. It looks into your accounts payable and does the same. Where its shortfall is, it does those two right out of the box automatically. It doesn't do anything else. So for instance, payroll. You may have a big payroll entry separate that's not coming through any other payables or receivables. So then on the sidebar, which I didn't want to show you in our own company org, you simply hit add an account, you reach into your chart accounts, grab the payroll, now it's in there. So it will now add that account. Now, you don't want to go and individually add a whole lot of accounts. You can have hundreds of accounts in your chart of accounts. You can also do some groupings. So maybe you had 2 or 3 other accounts that you make journal entries to, other entries. You can combine them up into one and make them a category and add it into that. So, and you can actually add one-offs. Maybe you're, something like Mark's company, oh, they're going to make a big investment coming up and buy, equipment to make a new production line. Well, you could go put in a one-off in there to help predict your cash flow. So.
Awesome.
Does that help?
Yep, that's all good. Thanks a lot.
Darrell, I think it was 2 releases ago, NetSuite was talking about this item 360 as well. I just did a little search on it in the Suite apps. The first release date was actually 7/15/2021, which is quite old.
I haven't played with that one at all. Our company is based on services, not items, so we don't use many, but yes, that's something we can look into.
Because we do have an item 360 on our item record, but what they had showed before was a completely different view of the item information. I wonder if they've dropped that or whether, it does say limited access. I wonder if it's because now it's maybe being built in, but I haven't heard anything about it and forgot. I should have looked into that one.
Yeah.
I think they were coming out with a number of different 360 things.
Yeah, they were trying to, I think their idea is that you had a dashboard for a role, CFO, an AP clerk, whatever that might be. And in a sense, the dashboard was supposed to bring pieces from different parts of your job together. The idea of these 360 dashboards is higher up roles that are spanning, in a sense, traditional lines like AP, AR, and so forth, to try to combine them better together. So, let's say you're in manufacturing and you're more worried about supply chain and you might have several areas that need to be crossed together. So that's where they're going with these.
All right, anything else, group?
Yeah, I think we've had most drop off. So
Down to 6.
Yeah, Mark, can I ask a quick question about your BI again?
Yeah, sure.
So we actually just started getting our integration with BI going right now, because we just got Microsoft 365 earlier this year. And how did your transition go in terms of like adoption, and I guess like what do you have, how do you distinguish what you put in BI versus what you keep in NetSuite and direct people? Because we have the same issue. We've got lots of different sources that's where our priority is going to be to get in BI, but we want to keep people still treating NetSuite as our source of truth. So
Yes.
I guess I'm just curious how that transition went for you.
Yeah, so we have typically allowed Power BI and licenses and grew that by managers and above, so that it was more of an executive view. They're not typically in NetSuite and they're not doers in NetSuite, like on a per transaction basis, but let them see from an overall view, hey, what's going on.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Yeah.
So that was our approach.
Yeah, good. And that's our target too. Like that's exactly where we're starting right now, is like just getting our kind of really high executive overview reports being hosted in BI and starting at that point before we kind of roll out to more manager levels too. So that's good to know that we're on the right path, because we're trying to do a lot of it in-house too. Like we didn't opt to go with any third-party support really. So trying to keep some costs down. But yeah, so we're learning a lot on the way.
Good for you. So I have 3 tools that I use. So I'm using Satori Reporting,
Yeah.
who is a third party, and they've
Yeah.
built it all for us, basically. That connector and gets us to the data sets, right?
Yeah.
Of basic copy of NetSuite. That has been great, except I have to go back to them for all the changes.
Yeah.
And it's a fairly expensive package that they offer. But that got us there and then got us up and running immediately and writing our own reports based on that data set.
Yeah.
My second is Celigo's Cloud Extend. So Cloud Extend, I don't know if you're familiar with that product, but it essentially, you open up a spreadsheet in that's saved in your OneDrive, and then you can add report generation to it. And adding each report, I put in the internal ID of the save search in NetSuite, and it brings that data back and puts it into the Excel sheet. And I can have, like, in some of them, I have like 15 different reports. So in that, which creates 15 different tabs, which are my results from 15 different save searches.
Yeah.
Put that on a schedule. I think the tightest one is 1 hour. So I've got that running constantly, and I've got probably a dozen different Excel sheets, which is essentially migrating my data out of NetSuite into this Excel sheet. And then in Power BI, I just consume that Excel spreadsheet using the OAuth authentication, which can then be also scheduled to constantly update my Power BI.
Gotcha.
My third option, which I'm going to do a proof of concept, so I'm kicking that off next week, is another company from SCS Cloud, and theirs is called Sync 365. And
Okay.
that is scripting within NetSuite, which goes and grabs certain, it's basically your saved searches as well, and puts it directly into Azure in an Azure blob, if you want, directly into Power BI. I haven't experimented with that one yet, but from the surface, it looks actually quite good. And they quoted me out a flat licensing fee of about $5,000 for a year on that, which would be comparable to Cloud Extend. Cloud Extend is awesome if you have tight control. If you don't, like, as an example, I had given a license to an employee. That employee created their whole thing, set the schedules and everything, was working great, and then deleted the spreadsheet. When they deleted it, then there's no link to the schedule. So the schedule continues to run, only it gives me an error every time it runs.
Right.
So when you go to Celigo and Cloud Extend, and they say, well, just don't delete those spreadsheets. Well, that's pretty hard if I'm scaling this across a number of employees. It's great if I'm in control, but not if the employees are not going to understand that. So,
Yeah.
so I'm looking for a better method. That works awesome. Cloud Extend is great, and I use it every day. So anyway, that's where we're at with our 3 different options of getting things into Power BI.
Okay. Cool.
We've had most success with Cloud Extend, just writing save searches and just give me the data, the raw data over, and then I'll build my visuals based on that.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. That's great. I'll take a look at some of those options for sure. I mean, we looked at Satori as well for our initial build, and our executive team made the decision that it was too pricey for what we wanted to do with it, which is why we actually ended up doing an ODBC connection through NetSuite to just pull it all out, and we use SQL to kind of script out what we want to pull out in each data set. So that's what we've been learning. We've been learning a lot of SQL writing to get the data, and it's, I've probably been in there last month or so the most, so it's been pretty hands-on for me the last 4 weeks or so. But like I said, we're just getting started, so it's kind of, as we roll out, we just want to make sure we make the right calls and get the right people on the right reports, and not kind of blow it up too much, because we don't want to ruin the NetSuite side of things either, right? So anyway, it's good to hear. Good to hear you.
Sync 365 can let you query by SQL command as well.
Mhm. Cool. That's good to
That
know.
was one of the options, but then I'd be going down the path. I used to know SQL, don't anymore. I haven't used it in ages. So I would be, having to re-educate myself on that. But
Yeah, I rely on
right?
I rely on my manager to write it. I kind of just interpret it and I can make little tweaks, but I'm like, I can't write it from scratch. So you got to write it first and I'll read it after.
And understanding NetSuite is a challenge too, right?
Mm, absolutely.
One,
Cool.
one
Thank
thing that is
Yeah.
really cool with Satori and Power BI is they've already built all the relationships with all the tables within NetSuite. So to see that, like, it's better than any tool that NetSuite has to offer, like
Mhm.
just to understand the database.
Oh yeah.
A huge learning curve, right?
I was very big prominent about just do it. Like, come on, guys, let's just do it. Let's get someone to come in who's an expert on this. But
Yeah,
I
because
don't
you'll
ha- I
spend so
don't have
much
the-
time proofing your data. Is your data accurate if you haven't got all the right joins and everything in? So, and then all of a sudden you think your data is accurate because your testing didn't hit on every instance. And 6 months down the line, somebody's going to want your head because it's like there is, broken data and you just missed it during the testing phase, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I know we'll see how this goes in the long run. Yeah, I mean, we're validating everything, but we're feeling the time expense right now because
Yeah.
We wanted to have it live, but at least the first few runs live in August, and we're still just getting kind of them out now, and it's October. So clearly, there's a time expense that we didn't account for properly.
Something else that allowed us to scale this is we hired what we call global contractors. So it could be an employee that's anywhere in the world. And they kind of gravitate to Philippines and India primarily. We have hired a number of them that are amazing at Power BI.
Okay.
And really just ran with it. So we've tied now a global contractor to every sales manager. Each sales manager owns, some are national accounts and some are independent accounts and some's econ. So we've married up one per just to go and build your own dashboard, which makes it's relevant for their business.
Yeah.
Which was huge. And for us to be able to scale and do that. So a lot of the global contractors work during the off hours when I'm off.
Yeah.
We come back with reports during the morning. I do the audit on it and then say, okay, this looks great. Go ahead and release it. But that allowed us, and because you do that, we're trying to scale our business worldwide. We're paying salaries in those countries as well. So
Right.
as an example, in India, to make $12 an hour is fantastic for those employees. It's way beyond their, minimum wage is like around $3 an hour. And then if they work for a consulting agency, they may be getting paid $5 or $6 an hour, but charge me, $50
Yeah.
an hour, right? So we've gone directly to some of these, employees now, and we're finding a great pool of resources for a very low dollar amount for the company, which gives us huge ROI.
Yeah. What was that? It was global contractors. Is that what you said?
That's what we call them, global contractors.
Oh,
Some
okay.
people call them offshore
Yeah.
resources. We thought offshore was a term that diminished, their skill set and that. So we call them global contractors.
Okay. Yeah, we have several on different teams of ours, like our web developers. A lot of them we outsource a ton of that stuff to some global global. Did you say global?
Yeah.
Developers.
Global
Either way.
Ours are in Ukraine. So we have
Yes.
interesting
Wow.
calls each morning with
Yeah.
them because it's like, did you have, air warning sirens last night and power outages? And one of our really excellent developers is based there. And it's like every day we're always wondering, is he still going to, be here the next day? So,
Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy.
Absolutely. So we're doing a bit of that, Darrell, as well. From our past, my president's very giving with his money. And he actually sponsored and brought in over 60 families from Syria, gave them jobs here, working in our offices, taught them English, what they needed to know, provided them with housing and, income basically to get landed in Canada. Now, because that process is like 2 years, now we're also hiring from like Ukraine, bring them on board, bring them on, see what their skill set is, help them with their English, and also work on their immigration status to Canada. So and then we bring them to Canada, bring them in Guelph, and then great, now they work in my office. And we brought them on over the last 2 years. It's awesome. So that's kind of our plan, is to, just help out worldwide people in need, right? Because there's tons of them. And you know what? How many in Ukraine have, they've fled, and now they don't have any jobs. Like, what do they do for work? They're smart people. They've got great skill sets. We help, right?
Yeah, it's our guy. He's on the west side, so he's relatively safe, but he doesn't want to flee because his wife's a doctor and she won't leave because she wants to be there to help. Otherwise, they would have left also. But his skill set is amazing. Yeah. So
yeah. My IT, more hands-on, my server guy is a Syrian refugee that I hired 4 years ago now. Now he's here in Canada. His favorite story is his building was in the neighborhood of where the government was attacking the citizens, and the bullets were flying and everything. And he remembers crawling over on the floor to the server room, reaching up, grabbing the hard drives out of the servers, and then trying to get to safety so that they could restart their company somewhere else. Some of the stories these guys have that, right? Like, and now, yeah, he's here. He has 2 more kids, right? Has a great wage and is one of my top employees. Like,
it's an awesome story.
amazing where you can find, good help, right? Over the years.
Yeah. That's the type of story you should get out to the Star or something, Mark, to get some feedback to Danby, because that's like fabulous. Yeah.
Fantastic work. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, sorry, Brandon.
No, that's okay. I like hearing those stories too. So that's awesome. But I may reach out if I have any more questions as we expand our, roll into BI. I may reach out to you if I have a couple more questions.
Yeah, for sure. I've got.
Yeah, and Brandon, then consider joining the board. It's a great group, and then we have like quarterly board meetings, so they're not a lot. You know what I mean? And they're over usually 30 minutes, but it's sort of, that's where I've gotten to know Mark and several of the others. Lisa Reed, who is our treasurer, is again a wealth of knowledge, just like Mark, and it's a great part to be part of. So I encourage you to think about that. It's not a lot of extra time, and there's a lot of benefit.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll think about it. Thanks, guys.
All right. Talk to you a bit.
Have a good day.
Thanks. Hey, guys. Take care.